Hey, Siemi family, Betuabo Banabetu, for those who understand what that means. I come before you all in the name of our Adonai and Savior, Yesaya, whom the world calls Jesus, um, and the Father, Yahweh, some call him Yahuwah, some call him Sonini Nanini, some call him Nzambi, Inyame, Akompong. He has many different names, even as we used to say Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Tiskanu, Jehovah Rapha, and those things. This is Brother Baya, and I wanted to jump on and do a video quickly about something that's been on my heart for quite some time now. And some recent events that I've seen in the news kind of spurred me to go ahead and do this video. I didn't really intend on doing another video so soon, but I was kind of compelled to do this because I had some serious questions for a long time about the true location of the promised land. And so we're going to tackle that for a little bit. And I'm hoping, I know that not everybody's going to agree with me, and that's fine. But once again, I am just here to point out some things that just doesn't sit right with me, or the reason why I've been just kind of, that I've had my doubts, that I've had my doubts. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm probably going to be jumping back and forth between some slides and some articles and videos. So, forgive me if I'm kind of fumbling around here because I'm still getting used to using the program. And so I ask y'all to bear with me. But anyway, when I was doing my coursework for my bachelor's degree in public administration, part of the classes one of the classes I had to take was paralegalism. And not only that, but I used to sit on a board of attorneys called Florida Lawyers Legal Insurance Corporation, or short FLIC for short, FLIC. And when you're around attorneys, you kind of learn how they think. My allergies are kind of acting up a little bit, so forgive me if you hear me clearing my throat here and there. But sitting on a board of attorney, you kind of learn a little bit about the way attorneys think. There's a couple of terms I want to introduce as I'm jumping into this, but there's a term called preponderance of evidence, which means that, I'll give you an example. A murder was committed, but you have no body. You can't find the body. But you found a bloody glove, you found a bloody shovel, you found ropes, you found a carpet with blood on it, you found instruments to dismember a human body with blood on it, blood stains in a car of the last person that saw the victim alive. And so in a court of law, a good attorney may say, even though we do not have a physical body, but by the overwhelming or by the preponderance of evidence, I will prove to you that this person is the one that committed the murder. There's another term that is often used in the legal circle, and it's called reasonable doubt. And reasonable doubt means you just need to introduce enough information that a jury would have questions about whether this person did what they're accused of doing or not, which leads me to the third term that was coined by Johnny Cochran in his defense of O.J. Simpson, and that if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And he used that in reference to the bloody glove that was found at the crime scene, that when OJ tried to put it on his hand, it seemed like it was too small to fit a hand of his size. And so that created enough reasonable doubts in the mind of the jurors. And most of the time, when the judge gives them their jury instructions, he will tell them that if you have reasonable doubt, that you cannot find a person guilty. And so that was the thing that I believe helped to get OJ off. Whether he did it or not, that's a discussion that people have been having for a while. But my point is that I've had enough reasonable doubts to question some of the things that we've been taught. Because when I read the scripture, some things just doesn't make sense. There's just some things that don't line up. And so I'm not saying that I know with 100% certainty where the Holy Land is. And I know all the different, I've listened to people such as Truth Unveiled 777, and it was very convincing. And I myself have Googled places in Africa that have biblical names. And so it just brings to many questions to mind, and that's what I want to explore today. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth, like I said, from some slides and into some articles and so on and so forth. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to talk about the promised land. The promised land. Okay. If I can get my slides. I don't know, my computer has just been giving me a warm time today. Programs, maybe if you all watched my previous teaching or the thing I shared a couple of days ago, I was talking about a computer hard drive. And so anyway, the promised land, and is a title, and then with a subtitle, question marks. As I mentioned, let's go to Exodus 3:8. And it says, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large, a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Now, the word for large is H7342 in Strong's Concordance. The word Rahab or Rahab, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is synonymous with the term broad, wide, spacious, those kinds of things. When you look at modern day Israel, let me stop sharing this for a second. I want to pull up something because we're going to talk about this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, where are we here? Okay. We're going to look at this. I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. So y'all bear with me here. Still learning to navigate my way around this program. Okay. Share that. Excuse me. Hopefully y'all can see this. This is something that's readily available on the internet. If you want to just Google Israel size compared to other lands, and you'll come up with this. I hope you guys can see it. But here it is in this little blue speck here in comparison to the United States. If you can see my mouse, you can see that it is not much bigger than the state of New Jersey. Here's another picture in red, how Israel compares to the United States. Here's how it compares to California. And you can Google this on your own, how it compares to Florida. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can do this on your own to see the size of Israel compared to these other lands, modern day Israel. But on the other hand, let's see. I need to move this thing out of my way here. Okay. This is Africa. And what you will find is on a lot of modern day maps, Africa is portrayed much too small. Africa is a huge continent, huge. You can fit China, you can fit Japan, you can fit India, you can fit Eastern Europe, partial Eastern Europe up here. This is the entire United States. You got Portugal, Spain, France, Germany. Switzerland, Belgium, Italy, Ireland, Australia, or Austria, I'm sorry, Austria. You can fit all of those on the continent of Africa, right? So why am I saying this? Let me go back to my slides here. Why am I saying this? Because what happened to all those other people that was in the land? What happened to the Hittites and the Canaanites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites? Did they all just disappear? Because the only two people that I hear now over there in that land is Israelites and the Palestinians, Israelites and the Palestinians. Where are all these other people? It's just, once again, questions that I have. And Moses sent them out to spy out the land of Canaan. I'm reading from Numbers 13, verse 17. And Moses sent them out to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, get you up this way southward and go up into the mountain. Genesis 13, verse 23 said, and they came unto the brook of Eshcol and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two of them upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs, right? Let me stop sharing again. Like I said, we're going to be kind of jumping back and forth, and I want to go to something. So I want you to bear in mind that Moses was telling the spies to go southward, right? Southward. This is Google Earth, right? This is Google Earth. Let me share my screen with you if I'm not sharing it yet. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Okay, this is Google Earth, right? Now, when the children of Israel went into Egypt, they were staying in the land of Goshen, right? In the land of Goshen. And they're saying today that, most people, they believe that the land of Goshen was up in this area. In fact, I think I have a map of that. Let me see if I can find that. The land of Uz. Where is it? I'm having a hard time with this thing because when I try to can I move this out the way? Okay. Yeah, what's happening is when I move my cursor up to the top of the screen is getting in the way of me being able to get to what I want to get underneath it. Anyway, let me go back to Google Earth. Goshen was thought to be in this area here, up around Cairo, or actually further north of Cairo. If you've ever been to Egypt, the pyramids are located somewhere in this area here. If you zoom in close enough, you'll find that the pyramids are somewhere in this area. I don't know if you can see my mouse, right? Okay. When the children of Israel, who was living in the land of Goshen, which is somewhere in this area, and I know I was hoping to be able to show you this. Let me stop share for a second. I'm going to come back to that. I want to find this. Okay. Yeah, what's happening is when I share the screen at the top, I'm going to have to learn how to put the drop down to the side or something, because when I go to find my areas up on the top, it's getting in the way of me finding my drop down screen. Okay, so let me go back now. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. If you can see where I'm pointing my mouse here, this is where today they're saying was ancient Goshen located. And it looks, I'm going to be going back to Google Earth in a second, but you can see that here's the pyramids was here. Here's Ramses and Sukkoth, Pithom. These were some of the cities that the Israelites was said to have built, the cities of Ramses, and I think it was either Pithom or But here's Goshen right here. Okay, so let me go back to Google Earth. So you can see if you remember the previous map that Goshen would be somewhere up in this green area here. And it stands to reason because Goshen was said to have been some of the best land in Egypt when Pharaoh told Joseph that you can bring your family in, and he put them in the land of Goshen. So if he's in the land of Goshen, now getting back to that slide where Moses told the children of Israel, the spies, to go up to the south. If they're in Goshen, going into the land, which they say the land of Canaan, was somewhere where modern day Israel is. And there's some other places that was involved, but it was not just Israel alone, but it's supposed to be in this area. If you're leaving from here, you're going east. To go south, this is going south. So once again, they're going east to get to here, but Moses is telling them when they came out of here to go south. Just food for thought, okay? Just food for thought. So let me get back to the slides, because once again, all I'm posing are questions, right? That we need to answer them if we are to find out where the real location of Israel is, or the Holy Land, right? Of the Holy Land, okay? So let me get back to this, right? So now they came out with a bunch of grapes that was just so huge they had to carry it on a stick between the two of them, right? Judges 18:10 says, when you go, you shall come unto a people secure and to a large, there's that statement again, large land. For Yah hath given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. Where there is no want of anything that is in the earth, right? Okay. This is another account when Abraham, Genesis 12, verses 5 and then verses 7, it says, and Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls of them that had gotten into Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. So this was when Abraham was told to get out of the land where he was, leave his father and his mother, and go into the land of Canaan, right? So verse 7 said, and Yah appeared unto Abraham and said unto him, unto thy seed will I give this land, and there builded he an altar unto Yah, who appeared to him. So he made an altar in the land of Canaan. The Most High promised him that he was going to give that land unto him and to his seed forever. So there was a famine in the land. Genesis 12 and verse 10 said there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. All right, so there was a famine, and if you read the story, Abram, he went into Egypt, and he said to his wife Sarah, listen, you are very attractive, and these Egyptians, when they see how beautiful you are, they're going to kill me and take you for themselves. So tell them that you're my sister, and maybe it will be well with us. So anyway, we know the story. And in fact, when Pharaoh took his wife, the Most High troubled Pharaoh to the point where he's like, and I think he saw them playing, and he said, wait, this is not your sister, this is your wife. And so he's like, why did you do this? You need to get out of here, because it's causing me a lot of problems. He gave him a bunch of stuff, and some people would even say that's how Hagar came to be with Moses, but that's something for another time. But Genesis 13:1 said, and so Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent towards Sodom. There's a brother on the that does some teachings. His name is Robert Headley. I followed a few of his teachings, and he does a thought-provoking classes about Abraham and Sarah's desert, sub-Saharan desert. And yeah, if you all get a chance, check out his page. And like I said, we're all trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together. And he makes some very valid points about the location of places. And I myself am surprised of how many biblical named places there are in Africa, biblical names in Africa. And so it begs the question, was it the colonizers that brought these names into Africa, or was it the people who brought those names into Africa? So anyway, Deuteronomy 8 verse 7 says, "For the Lord thy Elohim bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains, and depth that spring out of the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olive oil and honey, and a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then shalt thou bless Yah, thy Elimo, for the good land which he hath given thee." I'm going to come out of the slides for a second and stop sharing because I want to make another point here. I'm going to go back. Let's see. Okay, so he was saying once again, Abram, he left out and went to the south. He went to the south. So when he left out of Egypt, how is he going to the south if modern day Israel is east of Egypt? That's just another piece of the puzzle, right? So let me show you something here. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. All right, I'm going to share. I'm not going to read this whole article, but I want to just read a small part of it. Okay, the title of it, you can see blog news, solving the water shortage in Israel and Palestine, right? I'll start from here. Israel is an arid. When you look up the term arid, it's dry. It's an area that gets very little rainfall, right? Arid. Israel is an arid Mediterranean country with a history of extreme water shortages. The 7-year drought that began in 2005 depleted Israel's natural water sources and compromised the quality of the water. The Israeli government established the Water Authority in 2007 to focus their efforts on solving the water crisis. How did they solve the water crisis? They started having to do desalinization, which is taking ocean water. Let's see, okay, less than a decade ago, a serious water shortage in Israel threatened the quality of life and future survival of the Israeli people. Water quality and abundance in Israel have improved in recent years with the help of desalination techniques that turn Mediterranean seawater and wastewater into usable water. So what am I saying here? That they have had to use techniques to turn ocean water into fresh water so that they can keep their people and their farmlands watered. But I read one article one time that says that when you desalinate water, you also kill the minerals in the water. And so it comes out clean enough, but it's lacking the minerals necessary for a healthy plant growth. So they probably have to add stuff back in there. What's my point? Right? Let me share another article with you. Let me share another article with you here. Okay. This is the Democratic Republic of Congo, right? It says the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, holds the potential to light up a significant portion of Africa. The Congo River, the continent's largest by volume and its most powerful, passes through 10 countries before emptying into the Atlantic Ocean. Let me go down a little bit. It says the river currently plays host to 40 hydropower projects, 9 of which are in the DRC. And basically, they're telling you that it has a significant additional capacity is planned. Well, let me just blah blah blah. Okay. If fully developed, the Grand Inga would become the largest hydropower project in the world at 40, I guess GW stands for gigawatts, and could generate twice as much as the Three Gorges Dam in China. Okay, so what it's saying is that the waterway, I believe they call it the Congo River, that there's so much hydroelectric potential within that it can power 40% of Africa. 40% of Africa just from the power of that one region. And then let me go back to Google Earth a second. Well, actually, for the sake of time, I don't want to jump back and forth too much. But if you, I'm probably going to go back there one of the other slides. But when you look at the DRC on Google Earth, you can see that it is so green and fertile. What did the Bible say? That it is a well-watered land where it sucks up the water. It's a well-watered land. And I may have that someplace in the slide. So anyway, let me get back to the slides, because I'm just trying to show you and deal with the preponderance of evidence that if something does not fit, then it begs you to ask questions. It begs you to ask questions, right? Let me share my screen again. And that's all I'm presenting here is questions. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. I am just presenting questions. It's a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of the valley. Does that match the description of modern day Israel, right? Out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. And once again, does that match the description? Okay. The Gold of Ophir, right? Now, Ophir is, let me read Genesis 10:29. And Ophir and Havilah and Jobab, all these were the sons of Joktan. If you follow the genealogical tree, Ophir was the great grandson of Shem, if I'm not mistaken, if I calculated it right, but he's the great grandson of Shem. And 1 Kings 9:20 said, and they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold, 420 shekels, and brought it to King Solomon. Job 22:24 said, then shalt thou lay up gold as dust, and the gold of Ophir as the stones of the brooks. And I will, Isaiah 13:12 says, and I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. So wherever the land is, it is a land that is rich in minerals, right? It says you can dig, whose stones are iron. You can dig brass out of its mountains. It tells you, even here is where we were reading about the gold of Ophir, right? Which is going to lead me to the reason why I decided to do this today, because of something that that happened recently. Hold on a second. These ads. Let me share my screen again. Let me share my screen. Okay, some of you may have seen this. Some of you may have seen this, and you know, I saw it I heard it when it first happened, but now this video is all over the internet. So let me just play it.
Africa now.
Okay, I'm not going to play that whole video, but you can Google it for yourself if you want to watch the whole article or the whole video. I might include it in the description down below. But if you haven't seen that video, I shared it with a couple of friends and family when it first came out. And so, once again, it leads you to questions. It leads you to questions, right? Because where can you find this in modern day Israel? Where can you find this? Okay, let me continue on. Let me share my screen again. Like I said, forgive me if I'm kind of fumbling around here. I'm just trying to get used to working with this program. So we talked about the Gold of Ophir, the animals. If Dwayne or the Issachar couple, Dwayne did a video a while back on the animals, and if you haven't had a chance to check that out, you can check it out on his channels. I'm only dealing with a couple here because I think you'll get the message or the point here, right? Um, the unicorn, the unicorn. That's one of the things that's mentioned in the Bible. Um, let me. This is rhinoceros. Rhinoceros originates from Greek rhino, meaning nose, and ceros, meaning horn. Thus, nose horn. Thus are the planet's real life unicorns. Job 39:10 says, "Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow, or will he harrow the valley after thee? Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great, or wilt thou leave thy labor to him?" The unicorn, right? And when you look up the rhinoceros, you will find that the rhino is indigenous to Africa. Now, they said that there's some that may have been in Asia at one point, someplace in Asia, but nonetheless, they are not native to the Middle East. They're not native to the Middle East. So once again, where was Job when the Most High was talking to him about that? He was in the land of Uz or Uz, in the land of Uz. So when you are in an area, the Most High speaks to you in terms of things you can understand. If I've never seen a whatever, say a giraffe, I've never seen a giraffe, then why would the Most High describe terms to me using a giraffe? Because I would not be able to identify with the giraffe. So when he's talking to Job about the unicorn, or as is stated there, he knew that Job could identify with the unicorn, because he even asked him, will thou trust him because of his strength? So that means it's a powerful animal. And if you've ever seen some of these rhinos, if you get too close to them, they'll charge and hit a truck. And sometimes that whole truck will, wow, they're very powerful animals, right? Lions, right? Nearly all wild lions live in Africa below the Sahara Desert, but one small population exists around the Gir Forest National Park in Western India. Wherever the Holy Land is, because we've had, I know in Babylon they had some lions because Daniel and the lion's den and all of those things, but David had fought a lion. Now I actually Googled that. The only thing that brings some question to me is that he fought a bear also. And I Googled and I could not find if bears were indigenous to Africa, but I know lions were, and they still are, right? And so the other thing is the ostrich, right? The ostrich is a large flightless bird found only in the open country in Africa. And in that same chapter of Job, if you read through it, Job 39, it talks about the ostrich also, right? Here's the scripture that's not in the King James Version of the Bible, but it's in the book of Jubilees, right? Jubilees chapter 8, verses 17 to 19. It says, this portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever unto his generation forevermore. And Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his son, excuse me. And he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, blessed be Yah of Shem, the Elimo of Shem, and may the Adonai, may Yah dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, and the dwelling of Yah, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. But I want to focus on Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth, Mount Zion. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a second. And I want to pull up something here. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. Bear with me one second. Okay. Now, let me share my screen with you again. Okay. If you look, this is Kenya, and this is where Mount Kenya is located. Some will say it's about 10 miles off from the equator line, but this line that you're seeing here, if you can see my mouse, that's the equator. The equator, if you understand, is the center line that divides between north and south. The equator is the central line between north and south. And if even you look at your navel is located about the center of the body. And even the term, why was it described as a navel? That's just food for thought. But anyway, if you look at Mount Kenya, right? I was looking at some pictures, and you can Google this stuff for yourself. I normally try, if I say I'm not going to be too long, and sometimes I get long-winded and the video becomes much longer than I want to, but look at where they say Mount Zion is in Israel. It's only, I think it's about 2,000 and something feet, if I remember correctly. But Mount Kenya is, it's something like 15,000 feet or 17,000 feet tall or whatever. But there was something that the natives said about it. Let me see if I can find that and share what some of the native folklore about Mount Kenya is. Give me 1 second, see if I can find this article here. Okay. Back here. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so this is, let me see if I can find a specific spot. I'm not going to read all of this article, but I just want to read a part of it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read a part of this here. The land and its people. To the Kikuyu, Bantu-speaking people who migrated to the foothills of Mount Kenya in the 1500s, the mountain is a sacred place and a central part of their creation myth. According to tribal legend, their god Ngai created Kirinyaga, Mount Kenya, the mountain of brightness, as an earthly dwelling place, for which to survey his creation and bestow blessings and punishment upon his people. And it goes on to talk about some of their legend. But I just wanted to share what the locals say about Mount Kenya. And it sits almost on the equator line, almost on the equator line. It is the center of the navel of the earth. Once again, just trying to show some things that causes me to question a lot of what I've been taught, right? So let's get back to the slides. Give me a second here. Share my screen again. Okay, so there's another thing that always puzzled me, right? Let's read Leviticus 26:33. It said, and I will scatter you among the heathen and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbath as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land, even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when ye dwelt upon it. Joel 3 verses 2, which is a scripture that we're very familiar with. It says, and I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Luke 21:24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So these are all scriptures that we're very familiar with, those of us who are awakened, right? We know that when you go back to the book of Leviticus, the Most High told the children of Israel that you were to work the land for 6 years. On the 7th year, was supposed to give the land a rest. So you were to work it, you were to plant enough on the 6th year to take you through the 7th year and the 8th year, but you would plant in the 8th year. That by the 9th year rolls around, by the time the 9th year rolls around, you'll start that cycle again. But the children of Israel did not do that. They kept on working the land, working the land, working the land. And so the Most High said, now that you are out of the land will enjoy its Sabbath. And so let me stop sharing something here. Stop sharing this. I want to share something else with you. Give me a second. Something that I began to think about, right? I began to think about this. Let me go to some population studies, right? Let me share my screen again. Okay, this is the demographics of modern day Israel today, right? You can see, let's go down here. Okay, you can see the date. The current population of Israel is 8,744,764 as of Monday, March 1st, 2021, based on Worldmeter, right? So they've got 8 million people there in modern day Israel, right? My question becomes, okay, well, they've got 8 million people right now in the land. Where are they going to fit everybody? Where are they going to fit all of the children of Isolele when they return back into the land? I want to find, there was another article that I read. Let me stop sharing for a second and find the article, and I'll come back to sharing it because I want to read this for you all. Where did I put it? Bear with me 1 second, family. Okay. Where did I put that article? Let's try one of these. I had so many open pages that that navigating around it, what I should have done was close up some of these things so I wouldn't have to search as much. Bear with me 1 second, family. Where did I put that article? Okay, well, while I'm here, I'm looking for this other article. Let me pull up another article here. That's not the one that I want, but something else I wanted to show you all. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me share my screen. This is not the article that I wanted, but since that I'm here, let me just show you this. Okay, this was a pastor that found a diamond. It says the diamond the pastor discovered was first taken to the president of Ernest by whatever. The president thanked the chief and the people for not smuggling the diamond out of the country. But this pastor found a diamond that's one of the largest diamonds. It is the 13th largest diamond ever to be found from rough and polished diamond and analytics, right? A Christian pastor has discovered one of the world's largest uncut diamond in Sierra Leone's Kona district. Okay. So I've heard other stories of people digging around and finding diamonds like they're stones on the continent. When does it ever happen in modern day Israel? Just asking questions. When has that ever happened? Like I said, a lot of these things just makes you question some of the things that you've heard or you've read. And by the way, just when I saw that video that I showed earlier of the Congolese, and they're all scrambling for this gold that they're digging. Now that it's out on video, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Because don't think that people, if you all remember the gold rush in the United States, when they discovered gold out west, there was a flood of people running out there. You had people everywhere with pans. And I mean, what do you think is going to happen now that the world knows that these native people are sitting on a mountain of gold? Nobody knows how deep this gold, the gold goes. The vein of gold, I guess, is what is the term, right? Nobody knows how deep this goes. These are people with shovels digging into this mountain and coming up with what they have. What happens when you bring modern mining equipment in there? How much gold is really in that mountain? And don't think that the European nations see what we don't understand. And I think it's in one of the slides. It was when I get back to the slide, we'll talk more about it. But I just wanted to give you food for thought. In fact, an Italian ambassador was just killed in that region. Okay. And you got to ask yourself the question, what was he doing there? What was he doing there? It's just a matter of time before you're going to start seeing different people trying to, because its location is not going to stay secret very long. I'm sure people already know where it is. So what I'm hoping is that the African government, I heard that there was a new president that was elected to the DRC. I don't really know the politics of the area, but I know that the Most High, he's going to be returning his people to the land at some point. And if my belief proves itself out that the promised land is not where it is and where we've been told it is, but if it is in the continent of Africa, he has to prepare the land for his people. There's a scripture, I think I might have read it, that says that there will be no room for walls because of the amount of people and cattle in the land. And when you go through and you read all of, in fact, the reason for the final battle is the nations are going to see a nation without walls, and they're going to say, "Hey, we're going to go into that nation. They don't have any walls. We're going to take a spoil from them." Okay, Africa is one of the mineral richest continent. Nobody can deny that. In fact, many of the European nations would not be where they are today had it not been for the wealth that was taken out of the continent of Africa. There's no denying that. And in fact, I was watching a video one time where this gentleman said that they need to keep Africa poor. They have to keep Africa poor. They have to keep Africa from developing manufacturing. Why? Because they need to be able to get the resources out of Africa as cheaply as they can. There was a cartoon caricature that I saw that said it perfectly. It was this big boat, like a steamship. And on top of the steamship was a European gentleman, is a cartoon character, and he's handing a piece of chicken to the African that's standing on top of the mountain. But below him was a steam shovel, the hand of a steam shovel digging out below him the minerals out of the land. That is what they've been doing to Africa for generations. But the estimates that even with all the wealth that has came out of the land that's made Europe, France, many of these other, even America, right? There's a scripture in the Bible that says, if our fall meant the riches, I think it's in Hebrews 11, if our fall meant the riches of the other nations, what about when we rise? So my point is that with this discovery that there is much more in the land, much more in the land. In fact, my wife had a dream, and in the dream, there were a bunch of people that were together. They were rejoicing. And there was a woman in the dream with a calculator. And when she finished doing her calculation, she held up the calculator and she was saying, "Hey, it's worth much more than we know. It's worth much more than we know." And the people began to rejoice even more. See, there's an estimate that with all the wealth that's been taken out of the land, that only still comprise about 10%. Some say as high as 30%. But it's a fraction of what still remains there. Why do you think they keep us from looking into Africa? Why do you think that they try to keep us in the diaspora from even thinking about moving back to the continent? Many people, you talk to them about Africa, and Africa, what the heck do I want to do with Africa? So while we are shunning it, the Chinese are flooding in there. The French never left there. Many of the colonizers never left there. Many of the multinational companies are still controlled by Europeans. Anyway, this is the video, what I was looking for earlier. Let me just share this real quick. Okay. This is the demographics of people of African descent throughout the diaspora, right? As you can see the chart, Afro descent, African and African mixture. So when you look in the Caribbean and Haiti, they've got 10,646,714,000, which is 95% of the people of Haiti, right? And you can look at the numbers. The DR, they've got 1 million. Cuba, they got 1 million. Jamaica, 2,663,000, and you can go down. Antigua, 61,000. Let's go down to the United States. North America, the United States. There's 42 million of our people here in the United States, right? And other places. So why am I showing this chart, right? The Bible talks about when we return, it's going to be the two sticks gathered together. Now, this is not even talking about those who are on the continent. Now, granted, not everybody who's on the continent are Isolele. Not everybody is us. We know there's Hamites there. We know that there's other nations that's in the continent. But just in the diaspora alone, where are you going to fit all those people in modern day Israel? You know, once again, it's food for thought. And some may say, well, we're not all going to make it. You know, it's only 2/3, and I get that. okay? Or a third or whatever, what 2/3 is not going to make it. It's only a third. I get that. But still, it's a lot of our people out there. Where are we all going to fit? Anyway, let me stop sharing and get back to the slides. I'm going to try to wrap this up because I didn't want to be more than an hour. If I actually didn't really want to go an hour long, but anyway, let's go back to the slides. And let me share my screen again. Okay, the Berlin Conference, which was also named the Congo Conference, 1884 to 1885. When was modern day Israel ever divided? When did the nations go in there and divide the land? And I've heard people say, well, during the Ottoman, Turk wars and whatever wars, that yeah, they, but there's not enough of it to divide up. I can't speak to that division of the land, but I can certainly speak to the division of the land, what they did in the Berlin Conference. That conference was, okay, if y'all remember back in the days when the mafia was running rampant here in the United States, right? They were killing each other. We heard of Bloody Sunday and all these things. They were killing one another, fighting over territories. And then one day they all got together and said, listen, this is crazy. We're killing each other off. Let's just divide up the territories. You take this part of New York, you take this part of New York, you take that part of the Bronx, and they all got together and they came to an agreement and they split up. Yeah, there was still some minor skirmishes here and there, but they got smart and said, why are we killing each other? Let's just divide it all up and we can all benefit without killing one another. Well, that was the same thing that was happening in Africa. All these nations were fighting over who was going to control Africa and her resources. And so they decide, well, why are we killing each other? So they got together in Berlin in 1884 to 1885, late 1884, early 1885, and they chopped up Africa. They said, France, you take this, Germany, you take here, England, you take here. And that's where, King Leopold said, I'm going to get my share of this African pie. And he got the Congo. And so when you read the things that some of these people did in Africa, see, the news don't carry these things here in America. You have to go searching for it. But it was brutal, some of the things that Germany did to our people. It was brutal, some of the things that King Leopold did to our people. It was brutal what France did to our people and is still doing to our people. Okay, but because we here in the diaspora, we don't hear about it and we don't really care to know about it because they're like, that's Africa, that ain't got nothing to do with me. But this was the land of your ancestors. We often criticize Esau for selling his birthright for a pot of food, but we're giving away the continent, our birthright. Well, maybe that's seeing this gold being dug out of the hill might change some of our people's minds, right? But anyway, when was Israel ever chopped up like they did it to Africa in the Berlin Conference? There's another interesting story. Let me read from Joshua 10, verse 6. And it says, and the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp of Gilgal, saying, slack not thy hand from thy servant. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. Verse 11 says, and it came to pass after they fled from before Isolele and were in the going down to Beth Horon, that Yah cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died. They were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Isolele slew with the sword. More died from the hailstone than the children of Isolele slew with the sword. Let me find another article that I was reading, and I want to show you something. And just give me a minute. Okay. Where did I put that article again? Okay, I think this is it. No, that's not it. Okay, here we go. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Okay, I'm just going to read a part of this article, right? So the article basically is saying that they found okay, let me read from here. Until now, no meteorites had been found in Israel, says Dr. Shmulik Marco of Tel Aviv University Geophysics Department. The university in Israel don't know of any fragments that have been found, but I don't rule out the possibility that some kid once found a meteorite, put it in his pocket, and that it's now sitting on top of a radio in his home. Let me go down to here. So they found a small piece of meteorite in there, in Israel, finally found a small piece. It says the small meteorite weighing about 40 grams and about 4 centimeters long was what they found, right? So they finally found a piece of meteorite. Now, when you can Google what 40 grams is, it's less than a half a pound. It's like something like 0.00080. It's less, it's tiny, right? It's tiny. But I want to show you something else, right? Okay. Let's see if I can find the other article that I had here. Let me stop sharing for a second, because what happens, and I have to figure out how to move it around. Some of you all may already know how to do it, how to move the little drop down thing from the top of the screen, because when I share my screen, then it pops up at the top and I can't navigate through the screen that's up at the top. So anyway, something else I wanted to share with you. Okay. Some of you may already be aware of this, some may not. Okay, here we go. All right, Gibian Meteorites, right? Let me just, I'm not going to read all of this article, but Gibeon is a meteorite that fell in prehistoric times. And they always say these thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago, just to try to keep you from, thinking that it's something that's in modern times. But coming down here, it says between 1911 and 1913, 33 fragments of the meteorites were collected in the vicinity of Gibeon and brought to the capital, Windhoek. They weighed between 195 and 506 kilograms, which in pounds, it's anywhere from 430 and 1,116 pounds, right? And I read someplace else, they said there's only about 29 of them that's now on display today. I read someplace else where the total amount of the meteorites is some 20 something tons, if I remember correctly, right? Then they have it on display. Here are these meteorites on display. So my question to you, once again, we're talking about the preponderance of evidence and reasonable doubts. And you can Google this and you can see for yourself, but they have these meteorites right there on display. On display. So my question to you is, what are you going to believe? Your lying eyes? Or are you going to start to question and says, okay, in that passage that I read, it said that the Most High hurled down great hailstones, right? So that more of the Israel's enemies was killed by these hailstones than was killed by the sword. So my question once again is, what fits? Just a question, just something to think about, okay? Let me finish up the slides. I'm almost done. Let's share my screen again. Okay. So the Gibeon Meteorites. And finally, show us the way. Show us the way. Zechariah 2:4 says, and said unto him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. Jeremiah 50 and verse 4 said, in those days and in that time, saith Yah, the children of Israel, Yisolele, shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yah, their Elimo. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Yah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. That shall not be forgotten. So I ask you, if they knew where Zion is, we all know where modern day Israel is. It's on maps, it's in all the articles all over the internet. So then why is it the children of Israel and Judah gonna have to say, show us the way to Zion? Because I frankly think that we don't know. We don't know, because so much have been changed. Going back to, there's been a couple of videos by Truth Unveiled, and the evidence was overwhelming of the location of biblical places in Africa. I think there's one on the true location of Jerusalem, and many of you guys have seen that video or those videos, and many people scoffed at that when they first watched it. See, there's a quote that when a lie is all that you've known, then the truth becomes inconceivable. The truth becomes inconceivable. When you have been fed all your life, Israel, 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 and you've been given that location every time, that location, the Holy Land, the Holy Land, the Holy Land. There's a quote that if you tell a lie big enough and you repeat it often enough, then people will believe it. And I believe that came from Hitler's propagandist, Goebbels, I think was his name. And my question, there is, if you even Google right now, evidence of an Exodus, there are many scholars that are saying that the Exodus never happened. Why? Because they're looking in the wrong place. I saw a video going back a few weeks ago. And I'm not saying that I buy it wholeheartedly, but it made me sit up and scratch my head. And it was a couple of people that did a video, or they've been over to the area. One was a Chinese guy that actually visited the site, and another one was a man and his two sons. But they found it's called Jabal al-Laz, and the video is out there about the true location of I think it was Mount Sinai, but in Saudi Arabia they have a mountain range they call Jabal al-Laz, and it's also sometimes referred to as Jabal Musa, which they said Moses. But what's fascinating is when you look at the path that led up to the beach area called, and I was gonna go ahead and share that, but you can Google it. But they're finding underneath the water of this this area where they feel that the true crossing occurred. They're finding chariot wheels encrusted in all kind of what do you call it on the bottom of the ocean, barnacles. They're finding human remains. They found the hoof of a horse that was shrunk up from all the years in the salt water, and so they're finding evidence. And what's fascinating to me was the tip of the mountains. The tip of the mountain was blackened, like if it was burnt in fire. And you can Google it. You can Google they call them the burnt mountains in Saudi Arabia, the burnt mountains. So anyway, I'm not saying that, you have to believe it, but I'm saying that how do you move some people say 3 million, some people say as much as 5 million. We know there were over 600,000 men, plus women and children, which usually women and children outnumber men. So someone's saying it's as much as 3 million people. How do you move that many people 40 years through a wilderness and leave no evidence of this migration. People will die during the time. Animals die. There's waste that's left behind. There's pottery that's left. There's some archaeological evidence that has to be left behind somewhere. But when you look, in the area going towards modern day Israel, scientists have not discovered any of this evidence that kind of a migration went there. Once again, food for thought. Many are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm not saying, as I said earlier, I don't know 100% with 100% certainty where all of these places are. But I just know that, I quoted in that last lesson that I shared, or teaching, or shared, whatever you want to call it. But it's the Most High gives us revelations. And, when he said, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, it was upon the rock of revelation. Sometimes the Most High is trying to give us revelation about who he is. And, when I look at Mount Zion, where they say Mount Zion is in Israel, and I'm looking at that. And even if you look in Wikipedia, it said it's a hill. It's a hill. There's a difference between a hill and a mountain. Our Father, he's majestic. He is glorious. You think he's going to live on a little hill? He says that the cattle on 1,000 hills are mine. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. And, I hope that this just provokes some thoughts. My brother in the UK, TCA, Thoughts, Camera, Action, he has this thing that he always, ends with, that's your shtick, thought-provoking or provoking thoughts or whatever. And I like that, because the Bible tells us we should reason. Come, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, they can be whiter than snow. Sometimes you got to sit down and you say, okay, I know what the common stories are. I know what the common wisdom is. But does it make sense to me? There's just something that doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. The piece, it's like trying to put a puzzle and you got the wrong piece, and we're trying to force those pieces in place. You may be able to bang it in and hammer it in, but the true piece of the puzzle, everything is supposed to flow. And I read you the scriptures, and I just ask anybody out there who says, no, I don't believe that. I still think that Israel is a holy land. Okay, great. Just tell me how it fits the picture. And we're all trying to learn. And so, like I said, I'm a person that when somebody shows me something, new information, I'm gonna investigate it. I don't just reject it because I've been taught this for so long. So right away, nothing else can be the truth. It merits us to really take a second look. Take a second look at all the things that we've been taught. As the Bereans, investigate everything. Search the scriptures. Search articles. Search the internet. Study and make sure that the things that we are clinging to is actually the truth. And if it is not the truth, then we have to search for that truth. Because the Bible says, seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. And so we gotta go seeking. Anyway, Matondo, thank you for listening. I hope that this have at least stirred some thoughts in your mind, and for you to just do some further research. Don't take what I say, because once again, I'm not saying that I know all of this for fact, but I just pointed out some of the things that's puzzled me over the past years. And even now, as I'm awakened to who we are as a people, things just start to line up more for me. That's for me. So anyway, thanks again for listening, and salama.